Alrighty folks, a warm welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 1 in our 2024 Colorado series. This year we headed over to the States for 15 days with 3 different tags between the two of us. I'm after a black bear and Rod's after a mule deer and an OTC elk. And of course we had to have a crack at some small game too. So join us whilst we amble around the backcountry of Colorado, chasing birds and beasties.
Good morning folks, we are back in Colorado and it is our first day of hunting. We are currently up at a glassing spot looking for a mule deer. It doesn't matter if it's a buck or a doe, we're just going to try for anything we see. But this area is quite busy, so anything we do spot will probably be quite far off. But before we do anything, coffee is required.
It's Tuesday. We arrived on Sunday and we were supposed to arrive at 4 PM, but due to various delays we ended up being awake and travelling for about 26 hours straight. So we're pretty tired. So we got up around 1:45 in the morning, our time, drove to my mother's, ditched my truck there, and she drove us on to Edinburgh Airport. We then caught a plane to Heathrow, which was supposed to depart at 7:40, but was delayed due to fog until 8:25. We would have then had about 4 hours to kill in London, but that turned into about 7 hours due to further delays. And when we finally got to Colorado, we had to spend an extra 40 minutes in the air due to a thunderstorm. But it could have been worse. Apparently we were only 5 minutes away from having to fly all the way back to Dallas and land there to save us from running out of fuel. So by the time we had got in, the sun had already set. We were keen to get our bags and go get the hire car, but Rod's case wasn't there. Our bow cases go through oversized baggage, and a bunch of oversized baggage hadn't shown up. The British Airways lady who was supposed to be managing the oversize could not give a shit. She clearly hated her job, which I can sympathise with. We've all had shit jobs, but Jesus, there was no need to be such a bitch. She told us that they hadn't made the flight and we had to leave the baggage reclaim, which we couldn't get back into, and that she'd meet us outside. Turns out this was a blatant lie she told us to get us out her hair. She didn't come out to meet us, but 2 of the other guys had air tags on their luggage, and they could see that it was literally sitting beneath us. So we stayed, and waited, with no update from British Airways. The Denver airport staff, however, were lovely, but they couldn't help us, and the baggage lady was nigh on blanking us every time she walked past.
Yeah, it does. Just lie down on these seats and go around and around with them all night now, okay? That's good, Paul.
Anyway, we finally got his case, after about an hour and a bit of dicking about. Got the hire car, which took about another hour, got to the hotel and just crashed out. We weren't knackered. Yesterday, we got up, went to Walmart for supplies, went to Cabela's, because of course we did.
Stop saying.
Caught some lunch with our friend Scott, and then headed up here to set up camp. We came up to this glassing point last night and saw 1 muley doe, which was slim pickings in comparison to what we saw last year. This time last year when we sat on this rock, we saw 18 from here. But right now it's a full moon, and in our experience of the deer back home, we kill a lot more when the moon is dark. When the moon is bright and getting towards full, the deer seem to be a lot less active, even during the day. Now I don't know if there's any science to back up our claim here, but from personal experience, it's a thing.
I don't know what the temperature is, but it's kind of cold. I sitting on this up high on a glassing knob. It's first morning that we've been here. We got up kind of a bit early because we weren't sure what time it got light, but we've been sat here since it was dark, or rather since it was getting light is what I mean to say, and haven't seen anything yet, although it's very cold. But it's strange. I was sitting here thinking, you get all the excitement of coming, getting here, all the travelling, all the expectation of, a joke, but I've been joking with everybody saying, well, we'll have one and we'll be eating it by the time it's dinner time. We'll be eating a deer because I've gotten one because it'll be easy. Obviously that's just nonsense, but it's a strange sense of disappointment when you look over the massive area that you can see and you don't see a deer. And last year when we sat here, I think we saw 18, and last night we came up, we only got like 10 minutes before it got dark, but we saw one doe. There's quite a lot of people around, quite a lot of other hunters, and it's been muzzleloader season. Also, it's came very cold just recently, I think, so it's kind of a new piece of weather. There's a bit of a breeze, there's a full moon, everything about it's not ideal deer kind of weather, in my opinion. I don't know whether that translates from home to here, but at home, if it was like this, a cold snap with a big moon and lots of people knocking around, you wouldn't be thinking you were going to have it easy. So I was just sitting here looking and not seeing any. It's it's a burst bubble kind of feeling. More strange that I remember the feeling from other times when we've been here. You see deer when you're driving in, or you see things, or you hear all the stories of how many things people have seen and whatnot, and then when you get here, nothing happens. It's a bit of an anticlimax, but I'm sure once the sun breaks the top of these hills, you can see it just up there behind me, just starting to crack over, and the mountains in the distance are all lit up. I kind of half wonder whether, because it's cold in this little, we're kind of in a corrie shaped piece on the mountain here, and I kind of wonder when the sun comes into it whether they might get up on their feet, just to get warm. Who knows? Anyway, interestingly, last year we came up to here with Scott, and we came to these rocks because they'd seen a bear, and Scott had a bear tag. And when we got here, I felt really ropey, like straight away felt quite ill. This year, I've driven up here last night and then again tonight, and we've been over some other high mountain passes on the way, and so far, apart from feeling a little bit breathless, I don't feel ill with the altitude, which is good, because it really wasn't good last year. But so far I've had no real ill effect of the altitude like I did last time. I can feel, I know if I go and run down this hill in front of me and try to come back up it, I will be blowing, but I don't feel sick, I don't feel ill, so that's a good thing. So that fills me with a little bit of confidence. And yeah, hopefully we find some animals soon. That would help. There's a chipmunk running around my feet now. Yeah. So last night on the way down from here, we spoke to two guys who'd come out with rifles, and they weren't muzzleloader, they were actual proper rifles, which I didn't realise, but apparently they must be allowed to hunt bears with a proper rifle at this time of year. For some reason, I don't know the rules on that particularly, but they said, if I turn the camera around, if it'll go, they said that over in here, somewhere on this bank, and they'd seen a bear kind of going away from them, and they'd gone off round here, but by the time they got where they thought they would probably be finding it, they couldn't find it. So there obviously are bears in the area, so that's kind of cool. Hopefully we see one at least, because it would be nice if Charlie could get a chance at filling our bear tag. But they also gave us some information that there might be some orchards further. I think it's north from here, but some people that have orchards, and they get a lot of trouble with bears in their orchards. So we're going to try and find out more info about that. But we're kind of hoping that we would find some deer, have a try on some deer, hopefully get a deer, but I mean at least try, and then go and try and see for bears. And then we've also got elk tags that are like, so over the top of these ridges here goes into another unit, which is an over the counter. We didn't draw an elk in this unit that we're sat in now, but the next door units cover the same deer tags, the same bear tags, and they're over the counter elk, so we could go off up into there and then we would, obviously all 3 tags would be operational then, if you like. Yeah, we'll just see what happens and keep filming what we can film and keep trying, keep glassing. The deer are all probably having a Kit Kat now because I've been talking, probably dancing around behind me and I can't see them. They've probably been running back and forwards here. Anyway, that'll do for now.
We watched until the sun was high, had some breakfast and then returned to glassing, but the deer weren't playing. We then moved over the shoulder of the hill to another glassing point, but I left Rod do it. At this point in the day I needed a wander, and the rocky bowl beside us was absolutely crawling with marmot. Now, marmot are on the small game licence, and I am desperate to eat one of these things. I love hare and squirrel, so I'm assuming these wee beasties will be similar in taste. However, I just have to keep assuming because I royally cocked it up. I missed and smashed 4 of my arrows. The wind was howling, and on the first shot I overcompensated for the wind. The second I undercompensated. The third I shot straight between its front legs and its back. Every shot was either 30 yards or more, which perhaps was a bit overconfident. And I wouldn't be so disappointed in myself if I'd missed them by a lot. But I missed every single one by mere centimetres. The last one flew a bit weird, and the marmot actually ended up getting a light scalp with the shaft of the arrow. It was unharmed, but it puffed itself up and yelled at the invisible foe, which may have been humorous if I hadn't just sent my last small game point into a mass of thorns. I've killed hundreds of things with a rifle. I know how to compensate for the wind with those, so I fully recognise that me missing these shots is down to lack of experience with the bow. Don't get me wrong, I've practiced a lot, and I'm consistently hitting an inch to 2 inch group out to 50 yards. I'm more than confident that I can hit the kill zone of a large animal, and I won't take a shot if I feel like I won't hit my mark. But small game are less forgiving, and most of my practice has been with broadheads. I should have practiced more with the small game heads to better understand how they fly different. Obviously, all my practice has also been on 3D targets in fields and woods. A live situation with howling wind and steep incline is a very different kettle of fish, but you learn by doing, and today taught me a lot. Namely that marmots are hard to hit and arrows smash real good on them rocks. Mid-afternoon the cloud came in, and with it followed a little bit of rain and some hail. So we headed down to lower elevations and to the unit next door where Rod and his friend Chris had hunted back in 2022. Whilst looking for elk, they'd seen a lot of muleys here, but we wouldn't be so lucky. We stayed out there till dark, and as it dried up it became quite a nice wee wander, but that was about all it was. However, as we returned to the car, we saw a guy spy in the face from his truck, and guided by an urge to pat his dog, we went over to speak to him. As it turns out, this is one of the best decisions that we'd ever make in Colorado, as when I mentioned that I had a bear tag, his face lit up. He was more than keen to tell us about a spot where problem bears had been coming down into the town and causing issues with local dog walkers and fishermen. It was in our unit, so we could hunt it, and with the way he was talking, the area was hoaching with bears. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm being very quiet as we're hunting wascally rabbits. We're hunting mule deer, but we're back up at the viewpoint that we were at yesterday, hoping we can spot one. We're quite keen to get a deer early on in the trip so that we can have venison, because American food sucks. It's a really frosty morning, which is good because it's dry on the ground, but it's also just not very good deer weather, like with that full moon, and it's not the best. But here's hoping. there's one down here. It's a doe. See, down near the willows? She's heading towards the dead tree now. I think she was at the end of this, like, scree type willow bit. Feeding round the corner and bottom of that. Yeah. Yeah. She went down, fed round, and then fed that way. So she went that way, so she's going down the kind of like valley.
I didn't realise that. I thought she'd been down it.
No, she went down round and fed that way a wee bit. She was going slow though. She was feeding. Yeah, it's not ideal. The wind was bad and we had no idea where she actually went, so there was no point pushing on and potentially disturbing her in her bed.
See beside that tree down there.
Yeah, I think so. You gotta sneak forward for it. Go for it then.
It's full on point. 50 yards from here.
Spooky wee things, eh?
I had him at 30. And I thought, if I went downhill, straight downhill, I'd get a little bit closer. And I needed to poke around one tree. When I pinged him after he'd flown away, it was 20. If it just like, I just needed to do that.
Yeah.
So annoying.
That
This
was
is point one this time.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
Onwards. We decided that it was probably best to pull out, so we headed off to go and check out the bear mark that the guy had given us last night. And well, it sure looked promising. The steep face on the edge of the town was covered in chokecherries and service berries, and the ground was quite literally caked in bear shit and mule deer footprints. The mark was just along the side of a busy highway, and with an active building site and gasworks in earshot, it probably wasn't the place most hunters would choose to go. But wildlife tends to go where the food is, and by God, there was some amount of food here. With a fairly long wait until dusk, we had to find something to do to pass the time. But with a fishing licence, a little travel spinning rod that I'd bought from Cabela's, and a crystal clear river at our feet, finding something to do didn't take much imagination. Now, it's hard not to feel a sense of grief when fishing Colorado's rivers. As I said, they are crystal clear and teeming with good, healthy fish. And whilst fishing, I couldn't help but think about all the stories I'd heard from the old fishermen back home. This was the river from their stories. This is what our rivers and our burns used to be like. But now, from salmon farming, pollution, and the silting from commercial forestry, our waterways are nothing like this. Our riparian ecosystems are in ruin, and our government seems to have little to no interest in fixing them. In my lifetime alone, I've noticed a decline in fish. But I'm 25, too young to know what it was like when our fishing was really good. Seeing the quality of these rivers really put into perspective what we in Scotland have actually lost. It's heartbreaking, and I hope things change before it's too late.
So I'm a wee bit sunburnt if you can't tell, but we came down to check out the bear mark that the guy gave us, and it looks good. It's right along the railway. There's a really busy road over there that you can probably hear, and a construction site down the way. But there's a lot of bear sign and a lot of deer sign, which is good. But yeah, there's a wee river here, so we decided to have a cast. I bought a wee spinning rod type thing at Cabela's with a really weird reel on it. But yeah, the guy in the parking lot, that sounds really American, car park, said that this river was good for cutthroat trout and brown trout. So we came down for a cast, and both of us have caught brown trout. Mine's of eating size, so we're having it for dinner. Well, at least I am. Rod's a bit of a baby about fish, but hopefully I cook it well enough that he likes it.
Right, so we were fishing for trout in the river, and I got a text off Scott, and Scott says where he is in the unit he's hunting in, I'm not going to say what unit it is, the elk are bugling their heads off, and do I want to come and call for him tonight and tomorrow morning? Well, we were here, we were going to bear hunt, but anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to fly up to Scott's camp. It's about an hour's drive, hopefully we get there in time, go out this evening, call, whatnot, have some food with Scott, sleep there, and just get up extra early and fly back to here, which actually is handy because it saves us having to set up. It's actually handy because it'll save us having to set up camp and everything, because obviously we took our camp down. So we're going to crack on down to Scott to see if we can't call an elk in. So okay.
We are both keen to hear and see the elk rut, and so we headed off to call for Scott. Last year, when we hunted the over-the-counter units, we didn't hear a single bugle. It's no secret that due to the high pressure on these animals in the OTC units, many have fallen silent. It's the reason I myself didn't buy an elk tag this year, and why I'm not totally against the changes coming in Colorado either. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to hunt an elk one day, but I'll either save up points for a good unit or go with an outfitter. From our own experience of deer management, we know that pressured deer can radically change their behaviour, and OTC elk are indeed pressured deer. Scott's unit required a few points to draw, and the elk here are still behaving like elk, so we jumped on the opportunity to hopefully see at least one. Not long after we set off, we bumped a cow and calf. They didn't go far, and so we pushed on cow calling until we got to the meadow where Scott had heard them in the morning. That did sound like... Yeah.
As he fell in a ditch.
Nah, that sounded like a proper thump. There wasn't much of an arrow twang, though.
That was a real thump.
Yeah.
We haven't done enough of that.
We set up a call there and waited out for a while, with no answer. But just as we decided to move, a spike that had been sneaking in behind us took off. But he didn't go far either. The wind wasn't good for pursuing him, and so we started working our way back to the other meadows. We ended up in the path of 2 straggling cows and a calf and unintentionally split the group. We set up a call and Scott got accosted by a squirrel, but the elk weren't for playing. As we headed back in the direction of camp, we found elk. Lots of elk.
Yeah, well, that one in the middle, he's a cracker. Yeah. He's running around like an idiot. Yeah. But he's following cows as well. He's not chasing bulls. He's like chasing cows. Mm-hmm. These cows must be starting to hot then. Yeah. And see, here's the one chasing them back over to him. Look.
Is that one way back in the back?
Yeah, he's like a little one, isn't he?
Yep.
That's maybe that spike that we saw.
Possibly, yeah. Look at that big motherfucker in the middle.
Yeah, that's a little bull in front of him, isn't it? Like a little spiker or something.
Your shortcut for it's too dark.
Yeah.
Amongst them was a cracker of a herd bull, and a couple of handsome satellites too. It was amazing to see them, and after seeing that many, we decided to stay in Scott's unit for the morning, and help him call again in the hopes of cutting them off on the way back to their bed. We'd work our way along the boundary, just far enough from the fence to see out, and we wouldn't call until we heard or saw them ourselves. If the wind was right, it would be a solid plan. In the morning, we set off before dark to carry it out, but someone else had the same idea. Muzzle loaders. We pushed on anyway, hoping they'd gone elsewhere, but it wasn't long before we caught up to them. We tried to hang higher than them, to stay out of their way and hope they might bump elk towards us. But deep down, we knew this wasn't going to work well for us. As the golden light of morning started to break the horizon, we heard a shot. The muzzle loaders had got the spike that we'd seen last night, though that didn't bode well for Scott's chances of getting one that morning. It was awesome to see an elk up close. They are incredibly soft, nothing like our Sika or our Reds. They feel more like a dog than a deer. They really are beautiful animals. We continued on till late morning, but to no avail. By that point, the altitude had caught up on Rod, and so back at camp he went for a nap whilst I cooked up my brown trout for breakfast. Now, by the title of this video, I guess you probably expected to see Rod or our friend Scott kill an elk. Unfortunately, that was not to be the case. In fact, there was very little in the way of what you may call hunting in this video. And to some, that may be boring. But hunting is about so much more than just the killing. It's about spending time outdoors, observing and learning about both the species you pursue and the environment in which they reside. And of course, sharing your love of our sport with friends and strangers alike. It's one of the reasons I like public land hunting so much. You're not guaranteed a kill, but everyone has the opportunity to try. So regardless of the lack of action per se, I hope you enjoyed this video. And I hope to catch you in the next one, where we actually fill a tag.